So what happens when your diet becomes your religion and your body is the temple deserving only the purest foods? John Stossel shows you now as you meet people so obsessed with healthy eating, it makes them sick.
Everything here is organic. Otherwise, I most likely wouldn't consider eating it.
For 26-year-old Johnny Regini,
I'm making a raw zucchini pasta.
eating a nutritious lunch
So I'm just putting some raw hemp seeds.
is a painstaking ritual.
Sometimes it takes days to prepare meals because I have to sprout things, ferment things.
Johnny's desire to eat only healthy foods has strangely become a very unhealthy obsession. It dominates his days.
I'm at the point where I don't even want to shop at the grocery store for produce because I don't know how long it's been sitting out. It's losing its life force. It's dying.
Yet Johnny knows that his eating habits are wrecking his life.
I'm fighting tooth and nail to find some kind of balance between all these irrational thoughts.
Charlotte Anderson, a 29-year-old Minnesota mother of three, says she went through the same thing.
It really turned into a huge problem, and I think that there are a lot of other people out there that have this issue.
Food took over her life. She compulsively cataloged everything she ate.
I was obsessed with things like macronutrient ratio, anti-nutrients, antioxidant content, numbers, charts. I mean, I have hundreds of sheets, page after page after page.
She ignored her children to do this.
That is when it first really started to bother me.
This fixation with righteous eating, kind of an obsessive-compulsive disorder focused on health food, is called orthorexia. For Johnny and Charlotte, it's been a kind of religion.
Orthorexia is a nutritional god that you must bow down to or you're a sinner.
The term was coined by the author of the book Health Food Junkies, Dr. Stephen Bratman.
And you suffered from it. I would say I suffered from a psychological obsession with food.
Bratman spent years in the health food movement, but became one of its critics after he realized he'd started to become orthorexic.
When I was involved with this, it took up way too much of my life experiences when there are other things I could have been doing.
Bratman says the problem starts with the delusion that every aspect of our health, what diseases we get, even our emotions, can be controlled by the quality of our food.
If you eat right, you can achieve perfect safety. People want to feel they can make choices that will keep them healthy. They want it desperately, and that pushes people into these more extreme kinds of healthy diets.
For people like Johnny and Charlotte, says Bratman, orthorexia is a disease disguised as a virtue because society approves of health consciousness. We spend millions on diet books hawking things like macrobiotics, the zone, the blood type diet.
But when it gets to the point where your health is overtaking your life, I think that's when it gets to be a problem.
Because they pursue purity, orthorexics are disgusted by processed foods like macaroni and cheese.
This is the downfall of America.
And even this innocent apple may be toxic.
If it's not organic, it's probably what goes into the soil is going to go into the food, and then it's going to go into you.
That aversion to everything that most of us eat is growing.
You should stay away from fruits, from sugars. No meat, no dairy, no eggs, no fish.
Grains and beans. That's really what you want to stay away from.
In June, all these people showed up at the New Life Expo in New York City.
We do the wheatgrass and the sprout juice.
Some of them do fine eating only things like sprouts, greens, and nuts, but other extreme dieters like Charlotte start to waste away because there's so little they can stand to eat.
I took out tropical fruits because they're too high in sugar. I took out root vegetables because they're too carbohydrate-y. I'm a squirrel.
Orthorexics, she says, can't eat at restaurants or friends' homes because who knows what's in the food.
And I didn't want to come out and tell them, I think you're trying to poison me with your food.
Charlotte was living in constant fear.
I was afraid that if I got anything wrong, I was going to get cancer. If I let go even just a little bit, that my whole life would unravel.
And plenty of diet gurus will tell you she's right to worry.
You become what you consume. You consume dead food, and death accelerates its presence. Eventually, it takes over.
Viktoras Kalvinskas, a keynote speaker at the New Life Expo, is a leading advocate of something called raw foodism.
Viva Raw Revolution!
Raw foodists believe cooking vegetables, even a little, destroys their nutritional value. Is Johnny more of a whole person? Is Charlotte, as she declines invitations and ignores her kids while spending hours writing down everything she puts in her mouth?
I would just sit on the kitchen floor and cry.
Orthorexia can kill. It led to this woman's death. What will happen to Charlotte and Johnny?
I'm fighting tooth and nail to find some kind of balance. I don't want to die.
So is everyone hungry? Everyone ready to dig in?
Lots of people have adopted radical diets.
Flaxseed crackers, dehydrated meatballs made out of nuts, sour cream made from probably cashews.
These people in New York City meet periodically to talk about how their diet of raw food only has improved their lives.
I feel a lot more well-rounded and happier in general, and I feel like actually my digestion has gotten a lot better also.
The life force in this food is so much more powerful. Like, it keeps you going. You know, you just realize that there's this really is it.
They don't think they have a problem, but they acknowledge that eating this way is time-consuming.
It's something that's just constantly on my mind. Like this morning, I literally spent almost 3 hours preparing my food for the day.
Everybody should chew wheatgrass with blue-green algae.
Raw foods guru Viktoras Kalvinskas says they've made a good decision. The benefits of the diet outweigh its rigors.
More and more starlets, Hollywood material people, are basically going raw.
We're told that includes Demi Moore, Woody Harrelson, Carol Alt.
Why? Because they last longer, they look better.
Could it be because they're dumb and they go for food fads?
Well,
like yours?
It's far from being a food fad. It's a trend that has taken over 50 years to make it happen, and it's happening right now.
It's helped you be healthier?
Absolutely. Most people would find a difficulty time at any age to bring their hands together in this fashion over here. I feel much younger and more alive at this age than I did in my 30s.
But you look, forgive me, kind of emaciated.
Well, that's because I've been on the road for a long time, and I don't eat 3 meals a day, so I lost a few pounds.
But you're only 8 years older than I, and you look much older.
Is that right? Well, I'm not going to argue that issue.
Of course, some people might say that obsessing about health food is no worse than pursuing other fanatical passions, like hoarding things or compulsive shopping. But orthorexia is different in that it can really hurt you.
I began to hear stories of people who took this to such an extent that they harmed themselves physically.
Kate Finn harmed herself. Kate, a former gymnast from Rhode Island, developed orthorexia after she moved to California and began experimenting with diets like raw foodism.
She was so absorbed with cleansing her body of toxins, that was her lifelong goal.
Kate's sister Erin says that in this never-ending quest for purity, Kate eliminated more and more from her diet. Her appearance deteriorated.
The beautiful, vibrant Kate had really become someone that looked much older. People would stare, and she looked bad.
Kate's family thought she was anorexic. They sent her a transcript of this 2020 piece about anorexia.
Some of them need hand feeding because they're not allowed to feed themselves in their own minds.
She called me and she said, "Thank you very much, but now I know I am not anorexic because I do not suffer from what these girls are going through."
Kate was right, says Bratman. Orthorexia and anorexia are different.
Anorexics seem to always think they're fat. Orthorexics know they're thin, but they want to be pure. And they can get caught up in a cycle of this until they can't get out of it.
That's what was happening to Kate. She wanted to gain weight while eating only foods she considered pure.
Weight last night, solid 75.
Her diary documents her lonely, desperate descent.
What do I do to gain weight? I'm afraid, confused.
Kate exchanged letters with Dr. Bratman. She said his writings helped her get better, but then she relapsed. As she lost weight, didn't she sense something was wrong?
When you're living within the philosophy of a health food diet, when something's wrong, you treat it by making sure to eat even healthier foods.
Finally, Kate agreed to let her family take her to a hospital.
And our niece went to pick her up in June, early June, and found her.
Found her dead at age 37. Her heart had stopped because of malnutrition. As the family read through her diary, they learned that she had been listening to several health food gurus.
And I think that was really dangerous.
Among them, Viktoras Kalvinskas.
You were in her diary. Mm-hmm. She died.
Hey, I'm in the diary of so many people who overcome cancer, asthma, and diabetes. So this woman took some isolated aspects. I haven't the faintest idea. My compassion reaches out to her that she took the path. Well, at least she got detoxified and cleaned and moved on into another incarnation.
Kalvinskas says orthorexics are emotionally unstable people to begin with. People like Johnny Regini and Charlotte Anderson who have prior histories with other eating disorders. They take sound dietary teachings and twist them to unhealthy extremes. But he should know.
Why should we believe you when you've got your own problem history of eating? You write, I was eating only live food. It left me bloated and fatigued, so I made myself vomit.
Mm-hmm. I was detoxifying a lot of the emotional crap from my early childhood experience, and eventually I managed to survive that experience.
It's not clear that Johnny Regini will be able to survive his experience.
Last time I weighed myself, I was about 78 pounds. I'm 26 years old, and I was told my bones are equivalent to someone 85 years old. That's pretty depressing.
And yet, he stays locked in the grip of his orthorexic eating.
Why would I want to stop? Why would I want to eat that stuff and kill myself even faster? That's what my orthorexic mind says. How can I stop?
Charlotte Anderson was finally able to stop. Aside from damaging her relationships with friends and her own children, she realized that her healthy eating was actually wrecking her health.
I was tired all the time. You know, you could count all my ribs. I was very unhealthy, which is so ironic that I was trying so hard to be healthy and ended up so unhealthy.
Okay. With therapy, she was able to relax her dietary rules and give up those precious food logs.
That was a huge feeling for me. I felt so liberated. I was trying so hard to control how I was going to die, and in the end, nobody gets to pick how they die. We only get to pick how we live, and I wasn't living.